This is the Ricky Cobb Show. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, my friends, because this is a show by the people, for the people. And that's right, you're my people. So jump in, participate. That's just the way we like it. We don't talk to you on this program. We talk with you. In today's episode, Kirk Herbstreit applauds Josh Heupel for how he has handled the situation in Tennessee with Nico Maliava. I'm going to be disappointed when this falls out of the news because I'm so proud of myself that I can pronounce the young man's last name. And Stephen A. Smith is blasting a current NBA owner as being potentially the worst owner in the history of the league. We're going to cover that and a lot more. We got a generous helping of Super 70 Sports tweets sprinkled throughout the show like little Easter eggs for you. But let's begin today with Aaron Rodgers and the dysfunctional New York Jets. There have been a lot of dysfunctional teams in the NFL. I can go back many years and I can look at various franchises that have had significant problems. You can look at the league today and you can see the Cleveland Browns. A lot of dysfunction. Just look at the number of quarterbacks that they've burned through in this century. The Jacksonville Jaguars, or as my friend Charles C.W. Cook calls them, the Jaguars. Very dysfunctional franchise. But man, the New York Jets are leading the field. Remember the players every year, they do a report card on their team. Players are asked about everything from the facilities to the coaching staff to the food to ownership, and the Jets were the only team that got an F. Woody Johnson, congratulations. You were the only owner in the league whose own players flunked you as an owner. Let's look at what has happened in the Aaron Rodgers era. They brought in Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers' favorite toy. That didn't work out. They fired the coach. They fired the general manager. We heard the rumors that Woody Johnson's sons were given player personnel advice based on Madden ratings. All of this has gone down. But out of all of these things, I think what Aaron Rodgers said recently may take the cake. Let's go to the tape here. Listen to Aaron Rodgers talking about how it ended for him in New York, and then we'll discuss.
I figured that when I flew across country on my own dime, that there was going to be a conversation. And the confusing thing to me and the strange thing was, when I went out there, I meet with the coach, we start talking, he runs out of the room. I'm like, that's kind of strange. I was like, then he comes back with the GM, and I'm like, all right. So we sit down in the office, and I think we're going to have this long conversation. I've flown across the country, and 20 seconds in, he goes, literally, I'm talking to the GM about something, and he leans to the edge of his seat and goes, so do you want to play football? And I was like, yeah, I'm interested. And he said, we're going a different direction at quarterback.
Well, there's a meeting for you. You're taking a guy. Look, this is Aaron Rodgers' version of the events. Aaron Glenn might have a different version of this story. But with that being said, you're flying in one of the greatest players in the history of the NFL, one of the greatest quarterbacks. Whatever you think about him personally, he's one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. You're going to have him fly all the way across the country, and that meeting is going to essentially be over before it began. You couldn't do that over the phone. You're going to bring him in to personally tell him that, well, you interested in playing? That's great. We're not interested in you playing here. You could have texted Aaron Rodgers that. I tell you, the Jets continue to be a mess. Justin Fields, Ronnie T-shirts, I know you're listening off camera. Justin Fields, if you think Justin Fields is the answer at quarterback, you're asking the wrong questions, my friends. That's what I have to say about it. All right, speaking of things that are wrong, Stephen A. Smith, who I've been on a little bit of a roll here lately, agreeing with Stephen A. more often than not, but here's where I'm going to diverge from him. Stephen A. with some very critical comments for Phoenix Suns owner Matt Ishbia. And we know that Stephen A. has turned his attention to Kevin Durant recently. Durant is the guy that he's criticizing. And look, I've been with Stephen A. on some of this. I have said from the very beginning, Said it on this show just yesterday. Kevin Durant took the coward's way to championships. Is he one of the greatest players who's ever lived? Absolutely he is. But going to a team that went 73-9 so that you could be the extra guy who made that team truly unbeatable because somehow LeBron got him. And that's the highlight of LeBron's entire career. The greatest thing LeBron ever did was take down that Warriors team with the Cleveland squad that he had. The block shot is the defining moment of his career. 73-9 and shit the bed in the playoffs. Steph Curry, as great as he is, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, what a team, what a dynasty. That's the one that they look back on, and it's got to eat at them. Kevin Durant comes in and says, hey, you know what? Instead of competing against you guys, instead of almost eliminating you in the playoffs, which he had done just what? A few weeks previously, he signs, goes there, wins a couple of championships, wins a couple of finals MVPs, but those rings, they're hollow. They're hollow because of the way that he went after them. So I agree with Stephen A on that, but Stephen A now going after the owner of the franchise. Let's listen, and then we'll react.
Matt, Shane Gillen with Forbes. I'm sure you, over the last couple of days, probably saw a national reporter make some, ridiculous statements about you might be being the worst team owner or worst owner in professional sports history. Just kind of wondering what your response is, if you have one.
Yeah, so Stephen A. Smith, I don't take much he says seriously, I don't think many people do, to be honest with you. The things he said about Kevin Durant, just wrong and disrespectful. The things he said about LeBron James were just disrespectful and inappropriate. And so with that being said, I don't really think Stephen A. believes that, what he said. I think, he's doing his thing, he's on the mic and he's doing what he does. And I think he'll apologize to me because I think it's disrespectful to put my name and, aligned with anybody that was kicked out of the league or no longer part. If he wants to say for the first 2.5 years, Matt Ishbia bought the team, we didn't win a championship. I think you probably said about almost every owner ever. But yeah, we had high expectations and we didn't win. We spent a lot of money and we didn't win. Yep. Be critical of me on that.
All right, there you go. Matt Ishbia. Was there anything that Ishbia just said that was wrong? I don't think so. You're the worst owner ever. See, this is the thing. It's not so much the fact that the comments were disrespectful. It's that the comments are dishonest. And this is what I don't like about Stephen A. And this is what I don't like about a lot of modern sports media. And it's not going to be any secret to you as a viewer. But as somebody who is not used to being on this side of the camera, well, I'm getting used to it. But for most of my life, I wasn't on this side of the camera. The thing that I've learned about this industry is people say shit just to get a reaction. That may not be breaking news to you. Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith, a lot of what's on ESPN, but a lot of what's on other outlets as well. You're just saying shit to get a reaction. There is no way in hell that Matt Ishbia is anywhere even in the team photo of the worst owners in the history of the NBA. Donald Sterling got a lifetime ban. 30 plus years he owned the Los Angeles Clippers. It was a disaster the entire way. When were the Clippers ever relevant? Ted Stepien in Cleveland. It's been over 40 years since he sold the team. They still talk about him. It's like a horror story. Talk to somebody from Cleveland that's over the age of 50 about Ted Stepien sometime. See what they say. And yeah, I'm going to go there. Michael Jordan. Matt Ishbia is a worse NBA owner than Michael Jordan. Get the fuck out of here. Stephen A., come on, bro. You're just saying stuff to say stuff. You can do better than that. Kurt Herbstreit thinks that college football can do better than it's doing right now in the NIL era, and I think just about everybody with a functioning brain cell is going to agree with Kirk on this one. Kirk, backing up Josh Heupel in the way that things were handled at Tennessee with the Nico situation. Nico, Io, Maliava. There it is. I'm just flexing now, showing how well I can say that. Basically putting Tennessee in a very, very difficult situation. At the last minute, he suddenly wants to get double the money. Well, it hasn't worked out. His family, they're saying now, well, it's not really about the money. Well, whatever it was about, He's going to go to UCLA, and he's going to take a pay cut. He's going to take a significant pay cut, and taxes are going to eat in to a lot of that. But let's listen to Kirk Herbstreit talking about where we are now in particularly college football, but in college athletics in general.
Because of what I just said, everyone's afraid right now in this player movement. If you do anything that's perceived to not be willing to give what the players want, then you're a problem. You need to be removed. And so people are just kind of like leading like this. Like they're terrified to lead. They're terrified to make big decisions. And ultimately they're sitting back and not doing what to me they need to do, which is having some balls and making some decisions and taking the heat. And the problem right now is if you do that, you get an attorney who either threatens to sue you or sues you, and now you're in a tough spot because the players win all these arguments. The players win all these debates. I've seen ESPN analysts come out and they want to blame the NCAA. Like, when in doubt, just blame the NCAA. I mean, that's all you have to do. The NCAA is like the boogeyman. You just when in doubt. It's never has anybody ever come out and said a player's ever at fault?
Kirk saying that the players went from holding none of the cards to holding all the cards. And it happened basically overnight. We're still trying to play catch up to that. As I've said, as others have said, it's the Wild West right now. This era is bizarre. And we're going to look back on it one day and reflect on just how bizarre it actually is. But something's going to have to change here. There are going to have to be provisions that are put into place to get a hold on this. The transfer portal, by the way, which we're going to talk about some more later in the program, is an absolute disaster. College sports are going to need more than a Band-Aid to be repaired. But remember when we were kids and your Band-Aid would come in a classy container such as this? I remember when Band-Aids came in a metal box that was worthy of addressing your dumbass injuries. Give me the fucking metal box with the Band-Aids in it, Mom. Makes me feel like I'm important. It's not like there was a gravitas to your injury. It was almost like your mother was coming in and treating you like she was a paramedic from Vietnam, for God's sake. Might have been a paper cut, but I still felt like I was important. And what is more important than the romance that has captivated America? I speak, of course, of Bill Belichick and his lovely girlfriend, Jordan Hudson. It's the dream. I remember when Charles and Diana got married when I was a kid. My mom got up at the butt crack of dawn to watch that wedding. And now it's like, my God, are we going to broadcast the Belichick-Hudson wedding on television one day? We're all going to want to be a part of this and see it and enjoy it. Jordan saying that Bill is her twin flame. Are you familiar with this term? Wishing the happiest of birthdays. That's right, Bill has tacked one more on. He's a year older than her now than he was 2 days ago, on paper at least. Happy birthday to my twin flame. When a woman calls you her twin flame, run. Thank you for that, Ron. When a woman says she's your twin flame, listen, put on your sneakers and get out of just do a Forrest Gump. Start running and don't stop until you see the Pacific fucking Ocean. Is what I would say to that. She's going to be competing in the Miss Maine pageant as well. Jordan is all over the place. And she'll be competing against the first ever transgender woman that has competed in Maine's most prestigious beauty pageant. There you see the transgender lady getting in there with Bill and Jordan. Jordan was the first runner-up last year. So she's coming back looking for a win. She's Miss Hancock. That is Hancock, Maine, that she was representing and that she still represents. And I will now bring in a man who proudly represents the fine city of Nashville, Tennessee. I speak, of course, of the international streaming star who joins me now, Ronnie T-Shirts. Ronnie.
Ricky.
Why would the New York Jets fly Aaron Rodgers 3,000 miles across the country to basically tell him in 5 minutes? I think Aaron said the entire meeting took 15 minutes.
Well, do you think that's how it really went down? Because Aaron said that he flew on his own dime. So maybe the Jets were like, yeah, man, you don't need to come out. And Aaron's like, no, I'll come out. I'll pay for it. So, I mean, there's might be more to this story, right? Because that seems super weird that if the Jets wanted him or the Jets had paid for his flight, that's how it would go down. So I think there's more to this story, Ricky. And I mean, don't you just think that had they broken up with him over the phone or over text, then people would just complain about that too and say, you need to do this in person. It's kind of like you're damned if you do.
It's a bit of a catch-22 there, I suppose. And you're right. As I said, Aaron Glenn's version of this might be a different story than Aaron Rodgers. I'm almost certain that it would be, but the Jets have just expended their capital with me. They have done so many stupid things over the course of the past couple of years that I'm just inclined to believe anything negative that somebody says about the New York Jets. You could walk in here and you could just say, well, the New York Jets, half of their players are, convicted felons. And I'd be like, well, that's fucked up, but it's the Jets. What more would I expect? Ronnie, let's talk about the transfer urinal, as Tom Izzo calls it. And this one is in relation to how it's affecting college basketball. I don't know if you saw this or not, buddy, but Baylor, the Baylor Bears have had an entire roster transfer. Everybody,
are they all just going to Indiana?
They're all gone.
Because, Indiana lost all their players too. So they just going to Indiana?
Maybe Indiana could get out the checkbook. If they want to go 20-15 next year, this is the team to do it.
Yeah.
Baylor coming off a 20-15 season, every single one of them eliminated there. they're all gone.
Ricky, I said this on a show a couple weeks ago. Like, they've got to figure something. Like, the money part, it used to be that, people are like, oh, amateurism, and we want to keep amateurism. We don't want the players to get paid. We're past that. Players need to get paid. They should get paid. But we got to do something about this. Just ability to transfer at your own whim. There's got to be guardrails. There's got to be rules. There has to be contracts, because at some point, like I said, I'm going to stop investing my time and money in Ohio State, which is my favorite team, if they just, it's a mass exodus and then it's new players in. I was like, it's just, I'll still root for them. Like, don't get me wrong, I will still root for them. But the whole investment thing, flying to games and staying in hotels, and it's not going to happen anymore if they don't get a hold of this.
Ron, I mean, you are one of the most diehard fans of your team. Maybe you probably love the Buckeyes as much or more than anybody I know loves their favorite team. And so if you find it that distasteful that at some point it would affect your enjoyment of Ohio State football, I think that says a lot about how fucked up it is.
Yeah. Listen, I think Ohio State has the perfect formula for how they're handling all of this. We won that national championship with a lot of players that were there, had been there for 4 years. Emeka Ibuka, Jack Sawyer, JTT. The list goes on. And we brought in some key players who, gosh, they did amazing things for us. Caleb Downs and Will Howard. And then, we recruited Jeremiah Smith. And obviously recruiting now means we paid him a hell of a lot of money. But it was still the core were Ohio State guys that grew up in the Ohio State program and made it to their senior year. But if we get to this thing like Baylor basketball, I can't even imagine. Ricky, we talk about all the time how much, we had relationships with the players in the 80s, right? Like, we knew about Ralph Sampson and James Worthy and Sleepy Floyd and Patrick Ewing and Chris Mullen and Pearl Washington. It just keeps going on and on. But imagine if your favorite team, it's all these new players, and then maybe by the end of the year, you start to learn who they are and a little bit about them. And then the next year, it's a whole new group of players.
What's the point in even fucking learning?
Terrible.
What's the point in even fucking learning, Ron?
Yeah.
At this point,
right.
I mean, in all seriousness, what's the point in even bothering to learn? And it is, as we've said, it's the Jerry Seinfeld. We're just rooting for laundry. Whoever is wearing the Ohio State colors this year, those are my guys. Yep. And then let's just bring in a new crop next year. The personalities and the relationships are part of what makes it special. Yep. You know, when you talk about the Cincinnati Reds of the 1970s, it's not just the fact that you were a fan of them because they were the Cincinnati Reds and you lived in Ohio and they were good. It's the fact that you liked Pete Rose, that you imitated Joe Morgan's batting stance, that you liked Tony Perez, that George Foster, Johnny Bench, right? And those guys were there year after year after year. I mean, you know, people in Cincinnati are still pissed about the Big Red Machine getting broken up in the late 70s because the relationship was with the players, not just with how good the team was. And Ron, imagine pro sports if everybody was on a 1-year contract all the time.
It'd be ridiculous.
What would Major League Baseball look like? What would the NFL look like?
Yeah.
What would it look like if every guy was able to just say, you know, all right, well, you know, I hit 45 home runs, drove in 120 this year.
Who's the highest bidder?
Who's the highest bidder?
Yep.
Let's just do it from year to year to year. It's chaotic is what it is at best. Ron, a quick little shout out here while we are on the subject of college sports to the great Lee Corso, who is calling it a career on ESPN's College Game Day. 38 years. This man did the thing, and he is now moving on 89 years.
Well, you know he's doing one more, right?
Yes.
He's doing it. He's doing it in Columbus when we play Texas. I'll be there for the game. Lori and I and Tyler are going to the game, so I'm gonna have to go. I haven't gone to game day in a long time, but I think I'll go to this game day.
He'll be 90 years old at kickoff.
Crazy
that day, Ron. And shout out, you know, he was the coach. I know you tell me that I can't call it my alma mater because I went there for graduate school. Okay, but as somebody who dips your French fries in milkshakes, I don't care what your fucking opinion is about that. I'm calling it my alma mater. I went there. I got a degree, by God. He coached U of L for 4 years in the late 60s, early 70s before he went to Indiana.
Let me tell you the greatest Corso story I ever heard real quick, all right? So this was in the 70s. You know, in the 70s, it was the big 2, little 8. It was Ohio State, Michigan, and all the other teams were not very good at all. So Indiana, coached by Corso, is playing in Ohio Stadium, and Indiana scores the first touchdown, goes up 7-0, and Corso immediately calls a timeout. And after the game, they say, "Why did you call a timeout after you went up 7-0?" And he said, I had our team photographer take a picture of me with the scoreboard in the background because I knew I would never lead Ohio State again. And so it was just such a great story.
Yeah, that is good stuff. Lee's been one of the greatest. I mean, you're talking about 4 decades he's been at it. If you don't like Lee Corso, that's a you problem. Yeah. You know, I think Corso's one of those guys that should have pretty close to a 100% approval rating.
And I love Herbstreit's relationship with him. Like he's kind of, he's the past 3 or 4 years, Kirk's really just kind of taking care of Lee on set. And it's just kind of nice to see.
Yeah, it's a great story. So from one guy who has a 100% approval rating to another thing that has a 100% approval rating, Ron, it's time for America's Poll of the Day. And let's go to it now. That's Super 70 Sports on X where the eagle flies high and then buzzes your dome with a little freedom and some good shit for you to consider. And it's, of course, Championship Friday as I come to you from Midtown Manhattan today. And let's look at what we've got. We've got 2 winners and we've got 2 wild cards, and I will discuss that. Remember, we did not have a program on Monday or Tuesday, so it was a short week for us, only 2 champions. The champions that come into Friday with some momentum are Autumn, the season of the year during which Ron has 85% of his human enjoyment. McDonald's fries, which that motherfucker is dipping in milkshakes. And then the wild card selections, Ron, that you see here, Yacht Rock and Rodney Dangerfield, come to us courtesy of the Yacht Rock playlist consultant who reached out to me last night and suggested those. And as someone who realizes it's hard to put these polls together, I said, thank you, sir, and tipped my cap, and here they are. So, Ronnie, an unusual championship Friday here with a couple of wild cards, but break it down for me as only you can.
Ricky, I already saw the results and I'm legitimately disgusted. I'm not gonna say who's winning. I'm just gonna say I am legitimately disgusted by who's winning. I cannot believe it.
All right, it's not Autumn. We know that.
Yeah, it's just
I can deduce that Autumn is not.
Yeah, I should go ahead and light the candle and then we can talk about it. But I'm disgusted.
All right. Well, look, before we light the candle, I'm going to tell you, Autumn, I love it. Probably my favorite season.
Mm-hmm.
I said September is my favorite sports month. And even though September is only technically 1/3 autumn, I don't know. It feels like autumn to me.
Right.
So McDonald's fries, hey, look, they're great. I've certainly consumed an irresponsible amount of them during my life. So shout out to McDonald's for that. Look, you know I'm a Yacht Rock guy.
Yep.
I got such a long way to go. Such a long way to go. So Yacht Rock is huge for me. And then Rodney Dangerfield, I like Rodney Dangerfield. He's fine. Probably my least favorite of the four. I'm going to have to go with Yacht Rock here. The Yacht Rock playlist consultant.
Have you seen the results yet?
I have not.
Okay, so I want you to tell me what you think they're going to come in. What order you guys think they're going to come in?
Well, see, now I'm inside my head a little bit because you don't like the outcome. So I feel like it's either Yacht Rock or Rodney Dangerfield is winning.
Dude.
Because those would be your two least favorite things among those four. So it's got to be one of those two that's winning.
Yeah.
I don't think I can give you an ice. Now, how would I stack them? If it was me, I would stack it. Let's say Yacht Rock first, Autumn second, McDonald's fries, Dangerfield. That would be my personal preference.
I'd flip Yacht Rock and fries. I cannot believe the result. It blows my mind.
Is Rodney Dangerfield just pulverizing the field or something?
He's not pulverizing, but he's winning, and it's not going to change. It's
let's light the candle. Rodney Dangerfield punching his ticket to the Why Not tournament.
I cannot believe it. Like he's not even that funny. He's old people funny, and I guess I'm disgusted, Rick.
Here you are, 32% of the vote almost.
How does Rodney
him just ahead of Autumn?
If that said Pryor or if it said Eddie Murphy, then I would understand. But Rodney Dangerfield, come on.
Better than Autumn?
He's not even that funny.
Rodney Dangerfield just took down a season.
I mean,
he took down an entire quarter of the calendar.
I guess he finally got his respect, huh?
Well, yeah, I guess he did.